week two of the fantasy baseball season. Here's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for this week. So a few of these guys, obviously all-stars and picks in the top 3 rounds of most fantasy drafts going into the first hitter, Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros. Alvarez, he's off to a very bad start, but we know every year you pretty much could pencil him in 30, 35 home runs, 90 to 100 RBIs, and anywhere with a batting average from 290 in the 300 range. But so far this season, he's still drawing his walks, but besides that, he can't get anything going. 1 home run, 7 RBIs, a run scored, a 189 average, and a 333 on base percentage for Yordan Alvarez. So this Houston National team, they've been playing decent baseball, and we know in the offseason they lost Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, and now they got to rebuild that infield a little bit, get Isaac Pardes, and then Christian Walker they signed to first base. But like I said, so far Alvarez, he's struggling mightily. April 3rd at Minnesota, 0 for 4. April 5th at Minnesota, 1 for 5. April 6th at the Twins, 2 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs. April 7th at the Mariners, 0 for 1, but he walked 3 times in that game. And April 8th at the Mariners, 1 for 3. So he's struggling, like I said, big time is Alvarez. I know the weather's a little bit cold early on in the season, and it does give the pitcher some advantage, but he's too talented of a hitter, even with those factors, and new players in the lineup where they can pitch him a little bit different to be hitting under 200. So right now, while he's struggling, and this is most likely the only time fantasy owners really could go out there and have a legit shot at getting him on a discount, you have to make that deal. Try to buy him this week. Next hitter, Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves. So Matt Olson, he's been struggling as well this season. Last year was definitely a down year for him after he hit over 50 home runs in 2023. And last season, 29 and 98 with a 247 average. And so far this year, this Brave team, one of the worst teams in the league. I think they'll get back going is Atlanta. Too talented of an offense, pitching as well. If they get Spencer Strider back, Acuna will be back in right field in a month or two as well. I think they could get things going, but for Matt Olson, it's a struggle. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 3 runs scored, at 229 average, but a 372 on base. He's always going to have a good on base percentage. He's got a pretty decent eye at the plate, is Matt Olson, even though last season he did strike out 170 times. But like I said, the 1 home run, 5 RBIs isn't going to cut it, and this Brave team is well 2-8 on the season. The last few games, April 2nd, at the Dodgers, 1 for 4, run, 2 RBIs. April 4th versus the Marlins, 2 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. April 5th versus the Marlins, 1 for 3. And April 8th versus the Phillies, 1 for 5. So like I said, he's struggling mightily right now is Matt Olson, but he's too talented of a player. And another hitter that's going to hit anywhere from 30, 35 home run range, I believe, this season. 80, 90 RBIs, worst case scenario for Olson. So right now, while he's struggling in this Brave team, can't get their footing in the early going. He's a buy low hitter this week. The next hitter, Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers. This Texas Ranger offense, we know they got a lot of good hitters, but guys like Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Jake Bergen, Corey Seager, all struggling in the early going. On the year, 1 home run, 1 RBI, 2 runs scored, a 194 average, and a 256 on base percentage. I know it's very early, but still to see these numbers from these perennial all-stars and even MVP candidates some season to hit under 200, maybe a little bit concerning, even though we're only 2 weeks into the year. But Seager, another guy, can hit 25, 30 home runs a season. He'll hit 260s, 270 range, driving 80, 90 runs. So another player off to a slow start, and especially at the shortstop position. If you could get Seager on a discount, that would be a great move, I believe, for fantasy owners. Like I said, it's early on in the season, spring training. Most of these top players, they don't play a lot. They don't get a lot of reps in. And this is like a mini spring training for them in the first few weeks of the year. April 5th versus Tampa, 0 for 4. April 6th versus Tampa, 1 for 4, a homer and RBI. April 7th at the Cubs, 0 for 3 with a sombrero, 3 Ks. And April 8th at the Cubs, 2 for 5. So Seager is trying to break out of it a little bit, where he's actually had 2 productive games in his last 3. But like I said, still hitting under 200, only a homer, only an RBI on the season. And this is a perfect time to buy him low, because like I said, all these hitters I'm mentioning have been great hitters throughout their career. And if they get things going, then you're going to have to pay the price, or the owner of these players I've been mentioning won't even put him on the trade block or want to trade him at all. So right now, while he's struggling, he's another hitter to buy low this week. Next hitter, Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. I think Robert, he's going to be traded at the deadline. This White Sox team, they can be out of it early and often. And last season, I was surprised Robert wasn't traded to like the Dodgers or the Philadelphia Phillies at the deadline. And so far this season, an awful start once again. No home runs, an RBI, 3 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 176 average, and a 275 on base. The only thing good with Robert right now, he still has 3 stolen bases. On base percentage, 100 points higher, just about, than his batting average. But he strikes out a whole lot, is Robert, and obviously not a lot of protection as well in this White Sox lineup for him to get good pitches. The last few games, April 4th at the Tigers 0-4, April 5th at the Tigers 0-3 with a run, April 6th at the Tigers 1-3, and April 8th at the Guardians 1-3 with 2 stolen bases. So like I said, he's stealing bases, he's drawing his walks as Robert, but power, RBIs, nothing has been there. Last season was an injury-prone year and a bad year as well, where 14 homers, 35 RBIs, 23 bags, and a 224 average, and he struck out 141 times in only 293 at-bats. So like I said, I think Robert, he needs a change of scenery, no doubt about it, traded from this White Sox team. And like I said, this White Sox team, they're going to be out of it. They're going to deal him, I believe, at the deadline or before. We saw them trade Garrett Crochet, their best starter, in the offseason, and it's just about rebuilding and getting younger and getting multiple players. So I think Robert, if he has a change of scenery, the numbers are going to pop. But even right now in Chicago, he's too good to be hitting this bad. So he's a buy low hitter this week. The final hitter I'd look to buy and trade for is Randy Arozarena of the Seattle Mariners. He's off to a bad start once again. 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a stolen base, a 159 average, and a 288 on base. So last season he hit 219. Was Arozarena, but he did have a 2020 season, 20 homers, 60 RBIs, 20 stolen bases. But obviously it's tough to hit over there in Seattle, a big pitcher's ballpark, no doubt about it. But Arozarena, at least if he's going to have a low batting average, you want to see more power from him, and only 2 home runs in the early going isn't going to cut it. April 5th at the Giants, 0-3. April 6th at the Giants, 1-5 with an RBI. April 7th versus the Astros, 1-4, stolen base. And April 8th versus the Astros, 1-4. So Arozarena's strikeout rate isn't good either. 16 strikeouts in 44 at-bats in the early going so far this season. But he's too talented of a hitter to just lose it over the last 2 seasons. I know last year was a down year. Tampa Bay wasn't good in the early going. They traded him at the MLB trade deadline. In Seattle, just one of the worst hitting teams in the league. But this season, I think Arozarena, obviously now he was there towards the end of last year with Seattle, that he's settled in and he could get things going, and he is batting cleanup. So right now, while he's struggling, even though I know the power is going to come, and the weather, as it gets warmer, that ball is going to start carrying. He's a buy low hitter this week where, Arozarena could give you 20, 30 home runs, steal 20, 25 bases, and it's just about consistency and him cutting down on his strikeouts. That's where a breakout big season can happen for him. So that's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.